Good evening, everyone. My name is Earl Rush with Straight Up Talk, and I'm here and have the privilege and the honor to be here with Ras Sango. Okay, a lot of you guys are looking at the screen and saying, Ras Sango, I know him as someone else. Well, he used to be Joel Massacott, one half of the Massacoti team that was probably on everybody who's been in this business over 25 years, you would probably have to say that Massacoti is on the top 10 all time ever for their innovative choreography, their chemistry, and such. They're living legends. Okay. So we're going to do this interview in layers. We're going to talk a little bit about Joel's beginning in DC when I first met him, a little progression. Of course, we have to talk about the empire that Massacoti, him and Anna created. We can't dwell too much on it because we're trying to move on because we really want everybody to meet Ras Sango, who he is now. Two different people. So first things first, I'd like to say, Joel, thank you so much. I know it's 3 a.m. in the morning where you are. Thank you so much. How are you doing, sir?
I am amazing. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
beautiful.
3 a.m. in the morning. Now that I'm on the other side of the planet in the Netherlands, briefly for actually no, actually I got my resident permit, but I'm setting up certain stuff over here as well, expanding the company. So
Okay. Wow. So I first met Joel. To be honest, Joel was the first guy I ever hated. First guy I ever hated on going out salsa dancing because I was going to Chelsea's. Literally, no, literally,
Chelsea,
the women were
yeah,
standing in line to dance with him, and this guy just gets. He was so good. I knew I would never be anywhere like him. So I like to be competitive, but when you know you're never gonna be like nobody, you kind of. I won't say hate, but I was very envious of him. Okay, so then I'm walking around. He comes in the hat. He's always been a different kind of guy. It's always been something different. He's never been like anyone else. So he has a little derby on, right? And I'm like, get this dude right. And he was wearing the derby, right? It was just like that's the hat he was supposed to be wearing, right? So I got the girl standing in line. I got this dude with a derby, and he's real cool dude, right? He's always been mellow. Joel, Ross Sango, whatever. He's always has been a cool, laid back type guy. I go out one night. He's in DC Saw Cereals. I'm not. I guess I couldn't make the grade. I wasn't mad about that. I didn't care. Talk about Ricardo either. I go out one night. I look up. I'm going to see Edwin Ortiz, and Joel is playing keyboards in the band. I'm like, oh wait a minute. I always wanted to learn how to play the keyboard. I can't. I always wanted the ladies to stand in line. The only line they were in was standing to get away from me. And I always like to wear hats, but I don't have the hat kind of figure. So this guy's got three strikes against him. But I said, you know what? When I saw him in the band, I saw him playing. I said, you know what, Earl? Stop being envious. You got to be this guy's friend. Tell us about your relationship. How you met Edwin Ortiz, Joel.
man, Edwin, Edwin. When I got up, when I came, when I first got to DC, I want to say 1996. That's when I first got to DC. I got accepted to Howard University as a majoring in jazz studies, and I just came from. I was in the military already in the army, and I got transferred from the Virgin Islands to the 257th Army Band that was connected to the Bolin Air Force Base and the DC Army. And so I was already in the circuit with with a lot of the musicians, traveling to some of the jazz bars and then the salsa bars, maneuvering around with DC salseros, with Ricardo and Elba. And I think it was through a party or something that was happening. that where we were maybe Lucky Bar or like I don't know. There was a and then your Chelsea's as well because um, Peligro was there and the bands them used to rotate back and forth at Chelsea's. But Ricardo is who made the connection um, between me and Edwin. But the fact of how I grew up in the Virgin Islands amongst and especially in the Virgin Islands is like multicultural. So you got Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Dominicans, Trinidadians, Jamaicans, you name it. It's just like everybody is on the island. So coming up, Edwin and his family were like the closest thing to home. Growing up with a lot of the Puerto Ricans in St. Croix. So yeah, I've been with playing with him for a very long time. While I was actually the whole time that I was there in DC. Um, yeah, 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 a lot a lot of memories. So maybe it's amazing memories. Yeah.
Yeah. So, how do I begin? I mean, your career is so decorated. It's like, first of all, let me tell the viewers this gentleman has three passions: it's music, it's martial arts, and it's dance. And he excels in all three. He has passion for all three. Now, normally I do this stupid stuff, but I'm not going to do any stupid questions with Joel. Normally I ring. I said, "Well, which one is your favorite?" That's a dumb question. He loves all three, and we leave it at that. We don't really have a lot of time for those stupid questions today, so I'm not going to ask you that. But I will ask you this, Joe. I'm sorry, Ras Sango.
Either
when,
which one is cool.
when did you first learn how to dance salsa?
Virgin Islands in high school. Actually, and I started dancing bachata before salsa.
Okay.
In high school, I was dancing for a bachata group in one of the classes, the programs for like the Spanish classes that I was taking at the time. Um, so yeah, no, started in in the Virgin Islands, and then it just expanded once I got to DC
Okay.
and moving
Okay.
around through the military.
Wow. Wow. That's right. You attended Howard. Did you ever think uh, an alumni from Howard would become a lady, become a vice president voting for the Democratic Party? Did you ever think that?
Hey, the way how things moving, I didn't even know how to think. I just kind of sit back and watch and just hope for the best. So that's what it is. This there, right now we'll see how things work out.
Okay. Right. So this guy's very humble, but I'm going to tell you, just like in D.C., there was Irene Holtzman, there was
Yeah, I mean,
D.C. Salsa Queen, there was Shaka, and Sanaa Gianni to help build this Washington scene and put it on the map. It was Joel and Anna, Victor Berjou, and the Geraldo brothers as far as instructors who put Boston on the map. Okay, I mean between those three, and there was some more that I may not be aware of that I left out,
yeah,
but the three people that I named were are known across the world and more household maybe than some people that I may have left out. I didn't mean to offend anyone if I did. Those are just the ones. What is that old man talking about? We were there with you, but I don't want to go into that. That was such a beautiful, beautiful thing, you know. So you're doing online stuff as well, online stuff now.
yeah. We well, with the whole shift with the pandemic, we had to actually re-strategize and move things around. Shifted the classes to a virtual setting.
Okay,
So everything's still up and running, but it's virtually now.
okay. So you're a real, real spiritual type of guy, and
Hmm.
I always thought that this was the case, but you verified it for me the other day. Now I have one. All your choreographies have a meaning. So I'm not going to ask you about the many choreographies you have, but you know my favorite one, the one where you guys wear the red and
Yeah,
Ismail
yeah,
and I did a spoof of that. What was the meaning of that choreography and didn't have a name for it as well?
yeah. Man, Gallego. Gallego was a mix between flamenco and the Matrix, so I could fuse martial arts and dance in a fashion that Anna and I actually saw together. Um, it was to tap into like where I was in the military. We choreographed Gallego when I was still in the Marine Corps, and so and actually it was choreographed on the base, like in between things after work and stuff like that. So the vibe behind the choreography was to represent the dual world that I lived in. One which kind of catered to Morpheus and Neo, which was those coats, to understand just the reality of what the Matrix really is. But it was more of me shifting into the artistic expression of my world in the military with martial arts, with based on what I actually envisioned the codes for. But between we were influenced heavily from watching a lot of different flamenco shows and fusing in a lot of the nuances from flamenco, that genre, but also fusing in the martial arts connected to the dance, so both energies could still stay intact in some
Okay.
sense. The choreography was actually, yeah, man, we changed our choreography at least 7 times, like evolved it. Each time that our skill expanded up, we changed the choreography to match where our technique was. So it kind of mirrored our life in some sense as I got out the military.
Okay. Okay. So you touch on the subject a bit. Uh, Back in the day, you and Gordon Neal were involved in a recording project. Can you touch on that a little bit? You know, a lot of people
Yeah,
know Gordon is an awesome vocalist as well, and
yeah,
it was a great project. Can you touch on that?
yeah, man. Yeah, that was an amazing project. Gordon and I connected from my first album when I was on the my other stage name, Joel Masakote. So the first album back in 2006, Masakote, he did the last track. He did a spoken word connection to like rumba. It was like a mix of rumba, bringing in the spiritual end, but through spoken word in some sense. And then later on, we had the opportunity to reconnect and really dig into certain ideas and stuff he wanted to do for his project. I think the project name was Confessions of an Immigrant, and it was a fuse of like we had a reggae track in there, but we had a rock track that was mixed with like neo soul and different other things. And it went amazing. It didn't take off the way we wanted it to, but based on the project of like a lot of stuff we were pushing, in some sense was like it felt ahead of the curve, where certain things, I guess, in the acceptance of just what we were pushing, things didn't connect the way we wanted to.
Right.
But we were proud of just what we put together,
Yeah.
the artistic creation behind of it. And Gordon is an amazing artist as a whole. So
Yeah. He's definitely one of a kind. I love him.
yeah,
He's something else. That's all I can say. He's something else. He's awesome. You never have to worry
yeah,
about anybody looking anywhere near like him because
yeah, yeah, man.
he got his own thing going on.
Yeah, yeah. He has his own thing.
So, what made you and Anna come up with the idea of the retreat? that's turned out to be a big thing, right? It started out, I'm like, man,
Yeah.
everybody's talking about this damn Master Cody retreat. What made you guys come up with that idea?
Well, the retreat was Anna's idea. It started out with her. It was like her baby. And she started out the ladies. It was like a ladies retreat. It was first a ladies retreat. And it went well, a bit more than what she had expected. And probably about the following year or two, she approached me in the sense of bringing in both the partner side, so that we have both lead and follow in the nature of and yeah, it became something profound for me as it grew, because I started to realize the nature of where the retreat was set in the woods through cabins, and spending a whole week long there with people that's coming from different parts of the world, that don't really know each other but gain this type of camaraderie through the retreat with all the stuff that we do. It was mirroring a lot of my training from the military on a holistic side, just based on certain aspects of like, oh, when the bus comes into to the campsite, the sound of the bus coming in through nature sounds exactly down in Paris Island when the bus comes in and all the guys then come out and have to be stepping on the yellow footprints.
Right.
So each year there's like a flashback of memories that helped me like healed from certain things of what I came from with the military, certain PTSDs and stuff that I didn't realize I had, that was popping up, but it was clearing because we were in nature, and so the
Right.
retreats became this almost like this headquarters of where all of Masakote's philosophy, musicianship, all the different training and stuff of how we view our artistry was nurtured there. And so it started to build, more and more people start to come in and from different parts of the world, and it's interesting to see when people come in, they're barely, when they don't know each other yet on Monday, and the same vibe, like I said, I pick up from in the military. But after by like Wednesday and just going through some of the stuff that we do, there's history, musicology, so there's a lot of playing of music as well, at the retreats, meditation, first thing in the morning, fitness training as well. So it's like a whole holistic full body around of like mind, body, and soul, kind of experience with the salsa, with the arts. So there's a little bit of folklore in there as well, with Afro, to actually connect it full around. So by the time like Wednesday comes through, you can see the meshing in of like the camaraderie building. That by the time the weekends, it's almost like as if they'd known each other for 10 to 20 years.
Right.
And all of that happens in a week. And so by the time they leave the retreat and then go back out to their respective areas where they come from, it's almost like cells. They end up kind of like, so there's a world outside that's of Masakote, the tribe, and then there's a world inside at the center that goes back and forth like this because of the retreats.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, yeah.
So let me ask you this, Ras Sango. Most of the choreographies were they a collaboration of you and Anna, or sometimes you guys get any outside assistance as far as the choreographies? I mean, because all your choreographies were fabulous. I was just curious. I always ask every choreographer, were they involved with most of their choreography?
Yeah. Most of all the choreographies was choreographed by Anna and I. We've hired out Gordon as well to choreograph certain pieces for us. Um, yeah, but most of everything was, yeah, was ours. Choreographed between like her and I from Take Five, Gallego, Five Beat Mambo,
Right.
um, afterlife, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
So, I had to ask you, what were your thoughts when we brought our crew, everybody's crew, on the Stuck on Salsa All Star Cruise? What were your thoughts?
my thought, well, it was new, it was fresh. I think we were like one of the first that was able to experience something like that. What thanks you guys. I think it was like two cruises that we were doing back and forth for like about 5 years.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, um, yeah, it was it was awesome. I'm just thinking, and even like one finger snap. I remember some of the choreographies we did on the cruise, the one with the top hat and the cane.
Yeah.
Um, and no, it was like, yeah, like I said, it was amazing. Just to connect with all of, and because it was so fresh at the beginning, it was like this new opening that all the artists was like um, connected to. Um, and yeah, it was beautiful to share that the stage on the ship. It, but it was tricky to dance on the stage on the ship because the ship was always doing this, like so. Yeah, learning experiences, but
But
amazing experiences of
you
just
know what
understanding.
I like though? I like that everybody it was kind of like a party, it was no, everyone checked their attitude at the door. There wasn't nobody. I mean, it was the hardest artist in the game on that boat, but nobody was acting all snitty or snotty, Everybody
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
I guess we all on the boat. We were all in it together. I guess we said, well, we might as well try to have fun and make the best of it.
yeah. Like,
So,
and but like I said, it was fresh. It was like fresh too. It was like at the beginning. So yeah, I think most people are just excited for the opportunity.
when, how old were you, and which instrument did you first start playing, and what other instruments do you play?
How old I was, I think, um, 8, no, 6 is when I started dabbling in piano at first. But my first technical instrument was trumpet. And I played trumpet from third grade all the way up until I got into the army, but in 90, 96, 98, around that time. On the way, as I grew up in a family of musicians. So I picked up sax for a little bit. I played drums growing up in a church as well. Um, and just yeah, my dad played bass, so I picked up a little bit of bass to just understand. I grew up with it just because I was dabbling back and forth with all these instruments. I had a nickname of Jack of all trades, master of none.
Right.
Just because I was constantly moving around. But piano and drums turned out to be the main foundation of my own musicianship because of like when I got into the army, I was playing my MOS was cornet, O2 Bravo, where I played a lot of taps for like funerals and different other stuff and concert band, stage band, the jazz band as well, and the marching band. Um, but in '98, I was diagnosed with Bell's palsy, and my side of my face had went dead for like 6 months, completely dead. So my embouchure, I couldn't play, I couldn't blow anymore after playing for like 12 years already. So I had to kind of give it up, all my blowing instruments, and fell back on the foundation of piano, drums, and that's where I've been ever since. So well, four or five different instruments, I guess.
Mhm. Okay. Well, everything that you do,
Mm,
you how can I get to it? All right. The martial arts, the dancing, the military. Are those the things that formed you to be mentally disciplined, or were you pretty strong, disciplined, mental guy before you got into the military?
The military definitely brought in a huge amount of discipline. Um, I was already driven and ambitious, but there's certain aspects of just at school coming up that I didn't care for. Certain parts about. So a lot of times I spend most of my time in the music room or the ROTC building way in the back of the school because I did JROTC for 4 years in high school as well before I got into the army. So I was already nurturing that type of discipline in high school in balance with my music. But became the passion of where I wanted to be as opposed to being in classes doing my work. But once I got deeper into the military, most of that education came in just naturally based on just the focus that the military brings in. And the martial arts as a whole, the like I live the connection of where Ras Sango comes from deals with a certain sense of living between multiple cultures. There's like 5 different cultures I live in as one. The army culture, the Marine Corps culture, but my martial arts culture, since I was young, is I grew up in Taekwondo, and from Taekwondo, when I got in to past the army and the Marine Corps, when I got shipped over to Japan, I trained under Grandmaster out there in Shorin Karate for a year while I was there. And then recently, in the last like 5 years, I trained under 2 monks in Shaolin Kung Fu. So there's like multiple systems of information that I look at. And what I did in the military, I was a martial arts instructor in the Marine Corps and combat photographer. So everything I did was through either multimedia, martial arts, and what's the other one I was thinking? Um, yeah, there was a lot. I lost it and come back. Um, but yeah, the martial arts was the foundation just based on what held all of that discipline together as well once I got into the military. And it's like the foundation of everything, really, because they're intertwined now, in some sense.
Okay. All right. So as I said earlier, in most people's ballots, you and Anna will go down in top 10. In mine, top 5, probably across the world, top 10. That's what I'd say. Okay. You both were
Like,
fabulous, excellent dancers. You both made it to the level. See, there's a level in salsa and mambo where you
mm,
can say someone's name, you can say their full name, but all you have to say is their first name. And even though it may be similar to all other names, you still know who you're talking about. For example, you say Ismael, you know who Ismael is. Shani, you say Joel, you don't say Joel, my son, you know who Joel. You say Anna, you know who Anna is. So it's just been an amazing, amazing time for you. Okay, and so things are going great. You guys are known across the world. Everybody loves Jen, Anna, and Joel, legends. And then all of a sudden, you want to change it to Ras Sango. I need to know. I need to know how this took place. We're going to the second level of this interview. How this took place, why it took place, and give us a little explanation of who Ras
yeah,
Sango is now.
sure. Yeah, no, yeah, the Anna and I are grateful for a lot of the experiences that we've had in this industry, traveling through the globe and building our artistic career. Um, my stage name, Joel Masakote, was a nickname that was connected to just the way I play Montuno. But my real name, Joel Masakat, the two names got intertwined to the point that after a while, as I built through the career and it expand bigger and bigger, Joel Masakote became the surname throughout. the industry. So there was a certain sense of confusion of just my identity around it. So it kind of felt, I kind of got stuck in my stage name through my own artistry, my own creation in some sense, which I'm grateful for. You know, it helped me evolve to where I'm at. But once it got to play certain aspects of what was coming up through the nation, certain perspective of what I was seeing, I had to kind of get back into my own original identity so that I could shift back into the Marine perspective to kind of do a lot of the advocacy that I'm doing with the Marines still. I'm still connected to my Marines. And it's, you know, when we don't stop being Marines once we get out. Once a Marine, always a Marine. But what usually happens is that it gets to a place where we shelter the identity under our own company. And so I've kind of been living stealthily with all of my information from my training underneath this artistic name. And so, in the nature of to be able to create something new from what I've already created, I, my whole this me going back into my original identity dealt with going back into my own Rastafarian culture of how I grew up through reggae music. You know, so and like you mentioned, you know, yeah, I am very spiritual, but the spirituality comes from a mixture of different platforms that I grew up in. I grew up in a Christian home, true Pentecostal, so my whole family are Christians at that end. But I grew up through Rastafarian as well. But the music kept me right in the center, where I could see both perspective, you know, from a observational view, and but that also took me through the martial arts as I. And so shifting from, it was easy coming out the Marine Corps, and I would say this has been challenging to get. A lot of Marines go through it. Just understanding the nature of what we do or who we are once we leave the Corps. So a lot of times, a lot of the Marines go back in because, in some sense, they feel like an outcast in the civilian world, knowing how drastic it is. So there's been a challenge to understand my true identity in terms of what it is. And once I was on the base, it was a different person. But the minute I left the base, it was easy to shift into Joel Masakote, the artist, because of, you know, the music. It's everything that softens everything up. The music, the dance, and then the martial arts in between it. It just became this way of living to just stay in our own passion in some sense. But once it got to a place where when I realized I was too far from my own root self, I did certain digging in, pulled into like a deep meditation, asked certain questions, and I started traveling back to figure out what transpired in the shift of my own creation with my artistry, but my personal identity, which led me 2012 into Cuba, to just go back to the roots of where salsa itself kind of began. But Cuba opened up doors where Rastafari came back in. Like there's a huge energy of the reggae culture in Santiago. But there's a huge Rastafarian culture in Santiago as well in Cuba. And as that opened up, there was like a Pandora box of different things where I reconnected to Egypt, Ethiopia. I started navigating deeper down into the African side of folklore. So following the transatlantic slave trade and the diaspora back into the heart of Africa until, I've remarried and my wife and I did the DNA test for like my heritage to actually understand the trails. All of this research I was doing from Berkeley going in. And as I went further back and further back with the intel that I do from the military, yeah, at the root, I'm West African Nigerian. So I am Yoruba, which is where Shango's name comes in. So there's a connection of my own Rastafarian culture, but everything that connects surpass the transatlantic and the diaspora back into the root of Africa, where that's where that name exists and resides. the frequency of that name, or more the energy of that name. Yeah.
I got to tell you, that was beautiful. No,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's it.
I didn't. I knew I was going to ask you that, and we said that you were going to discuss it, but I didn't think you would be able to elaborate so eloquently on the subject. So I was kind of mystified there. I'm sitting here, I'm like, I'm listening to, I'm like, this dude is really heavy.
Yeah.
Really
Well,
heavy.
it wasn't a cakewalk. Like literally, I had to turn my back on everything I created. Like Ritmo Masakote, Joe Masakote is not up to the surface anymore. Because Anne and I evolved, and we're still really close friends, and but we different chapters. And so the infrastructure I created for the company was to actually hold a foundation, almost like an aircraft carrier, where everybody could be free to maneuver wherever see fit. There's no obligation to hold anybody in one way of living, or one way of a perspective. So as they evolve, if the choice is everybody's to choose in direction of where. So without that infrastructure, I wouldn't be able to actually shift and flank, which is something that we Marines know how to do really well, pivot. And I had to pivot my own company and create another company, Ultra Balance, so that I could create something new out of there, and start fresh. So in some sense, it was like a death, in some sense, a death of one chapter and one identity, one personality coming
Right.
into my original essence. And the only way to do that was through the martial arts. So everything from Ultra Balance is more of a holistic platform that supports artistry on foundational level, where the infrastructure supports more of the artist's perspective, as opposed to the corporation perspective, because there's an imbalance between the corporation perspective, understanding how the business model fits around artistry. So yeah, it was a lot of deep soul diving in some sense. So there's no belief about the experience. It's my experience. I had to go through it in order to understand it. So it comes off the minute I start looking at it. It just comes off of my heart, you know. But yeah, I shared a perspective, especially when I got into Berkeley. I started to share a lot of perspective, the importance of on having stage names separate from your personal name, because I wouldn't have, if in that situation, I wouldn't have been able to switch out of my own intellectual property into something else if it was just attached to my whole name, my original name itself. So it's more of like a security, but a strength of my spiritual essence of what that is, and where my consciousness has evolved to based on the experiences I was going through to understand the root once again.
Joel.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sorry. Ras
you,
Sango.
yeah,
Um, I just want to thank you for you and Anna for always coming to our events, making them exciting and fabulous. I want to thank you for staying up at 3 a.m. in the morning to do this interview. I want to thank you for your friendship, and I want to thank you for your knowledge that you have conveyed to me. I just want to thank you and wish you well on your current life. Tell your lovely wife I said hello.
will
And
do.
it's been surely been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Joel. We're going to wrap it up right now. Thank you so
But
much.
thank you for having me. Thank you,
All
appreciate
right.
it. Yeah,
Okay. See, talk to you
cheers.
later. All right.
Okay.